Hello everyone, my name is PolishLynx, and we can continue with Everlasting Summer. One may think it's strange, and that's exactly how this seemed to me, but eventually we reached the district center. I eventually got tired in the bus and fell asleep. When I woke up, I ran up and down the aisle of the bus, gasping for air, but soon I realized that this long week is over. At last I managed to break free from the camp. All the time I spent there seemed like so much longer than 7 days, and now everything is over. Soon after the events moved with frightening speed. No time left for self-analysis or seeking answers. Moreover, from time to time I completely forgot about the camp. Like anyone who found themselves in a completely strange environment, I was completely lost. I had no papers, not even a simple birth certificate, and no skills to earn a living. Professions such as computer specialist or call center operator were not in demand. Lena returned to her normal life. She had to graduate from school and get ready to enter university. The pioneer camp was in the south of the USSR, just as I assumed. Lena lived in a town with a population of about 100,000. It was easy to get there by bus from the district center. There was nothing special about the town. One big factory, rows of 5-story houses, wooden huts on the outskirts, a grocery store that closed at 7 p.m. and a supermarket. A true Eden for a shopaholic, with choices including rubber winter shoes, women's sheepskin coats, and men's muscular hats. Before I would already be trying to run away from a place like this, but now it was my home. Cases of starvation were rare in 20th century Europe. I managed to find a job. I was employed as a turner's assistant in a factory and was also given a room in a hostel. Over time, this initially difficult and strange job started to bring a certain satisfaction. Partially, of course, that came from having the ability to buy food. As time passed and I climbed up a car ladder, becoming the head of a whole shift. My colleagues were amazed at my talent and persistence, and so was I. Then I graduated from school and I spent several nights with a calculator, designing diagrams of expenses and income, and at last made up my mind to propose to Lena. I don't remember now if it took a lot of time for her to think, if she suggested me sign a marriage contract, or if she protested because of the lack of a dowry, but in a short time both of us moved into a communal apartment room near the factory that cost 2/3 of my salary. Thanks to free Soviet education for everyone, or maybe thanks to my wife's persistence, eventually I became a part-time student at the local polytechnic university. At first I protested, saying that a fair proletarian had no need to act like the lousy intellectuals, but then I came to the conclusion that a diploma would make my life easier. It wasn't difficult to study thanks to my knowledge from my last attempt at receiving a higher education. Time passed and the country started to change. Of course I knew it would happen, but still, the changes came out of the blue. You could compare it to being caught in an avalanche in the mountains. You can prepare all you like, but it will still bury you anyway. The factory was privatized and then closed down. Moonlight as a private driver in the Kopejka Rattle Trap I inherited from my father-in-law was not really a profitable business. I was even ready to apply for a camp leader position in Sovyonok when a last distant relative died and left us a one-room apartment somewhere in central Russia. Kopejka is a Russian car. Very cheap, alright. After a family council we decided to move. We greeted the early 90s in a cramped kitchen in Khrushchevka, watching Swan Lake. Thanks to a random side jobs, I saved up some money and we decided to move to a bigger city. And of course, I chose my birthplace. It's a low-cost concrete panel 3 to 5-story building opened during the reign of Nikita Khrushchev. We decided to sell the flat and use the money to invest in business. For some time we lived in a luxury, buying pink fur coats and expensive foreign cars, dining in restaurants and taking trips to other countries. Like many others during that time, I had the luck to somehow make it big, starting from the bottom. My business was construction material retail. It was a profitable market at that time because people made excessive money that they wanted to invest in luxurious homes. Maybe such life could have gone up, but the 90s were called rockish for a reason. After encountering rackets and corruption, I was left with an empty refrigerator and empty wallet, and the bitter taste of blood in my mouth. That was the time I tried to recall my man from the future status. Betting places that were impossible in the Soviet era popped up all over, and I rushed to gamble on everything I knew. However, I faced new disappointment as matches were won by completely different teams. Even the 1990 World Cup champion was in Brazil. When I was just watching football on TV, everything went as it should, but whenever I spent the last of my money to make a bet, even underdogs began phenomenally beating favorites. As well as that, I tried to pursue the career of a political advisor. However, you don't get accepted into a high position like that without special connections or anything that would make people interested. I don't know how long I would have gone through this torment if not for an event which changed everything. Lena and Lena had a child. In a hurry, I started to search for any possible way to earn enough to provide for my family. I remembered some of my father's old friends, and through them, by pretending to be a distant relative of myself, I gained a place as a junior data analyst in a bank. At the same time, I made a new attempt to obtain my degree, or to be precise, to finish it. Time passed slowly. The money was just enough to fill our stomachs. I almost lived at work for days, trying to find some time for my exams. Lena stayed at home with a baby. That was when I started writing. I remember it as if it was yesterday. It was just after midnight, and I was sitting in the kitchen in front of my own worn-out E386, wildly killing monsters in Doom 2. I wanted to sleep badly, but computer games at least slightly distracted me from the infinity of old days. When I completed another level, I was suddenly immersed in thoughts about everything I'd got through during the last 2 years. It was all too much for one person. That's when I decided to write down everything that had happened to me. I launched the word processor and wrote down about 200 words, with the clear intent of continuing tomorrow. However, I didn't remember tomorrow, nor even a week later. About a month later, Lena, who was typing something on the computer, reminded me of my unfinished book. I reread it and deleted it, terrified. At that moment, I started to doubt if I could ever do it. After all, it was an entire epic novel, and I wasn't even able to string 2 sentences together. In addition, it's not easy to write about yourself. Creative work put on the back burner for now. I celebrated the arrival of the year 2000 as a certified specialist with department head duties. While moving to another department, I found my old E386 among the trash that was to be thrown away, and I remembered my intention of writing a book about my life. I laughed. How stupid. However, after some time I opened my laptop and made a sort of draft of a short story about a young man without a definite occupation or aspirations who finds himself on a different planet. The style, orthography and punctuation, as well as the idea itself, were matched well to such a silly plot. I showed the story to my wife. She laughed, but said that it was well written and advised me to continue. About a year later, the drawer designated for holding my literary works was full. I found that very odd because I was spending the entire days at work, sometimes even during holidays, and I tried to spend all my available free time with my family. However, that's what happened. Around that time, I decided to publish my short stories. As with any other beginner's work, most of mine were rejected, but a couple of them were accepted, including my first work. I was overdoing. Of course, I was paid nothing, but my works will be read, meaning that someone will find them interesting. Time passed. We had a second baby now. During my spare time, I slowly wrote a novel. No, not about my life, or the pioneer camp. I decided not to touch upon those themes ever again. Everything that happened years ago seemed to be the will of God, whose charity should not be tempted. Who can tell what would have happened if I hadn't woken up in a bus near the Sovyonok camp gates? A year later, the novel was completed. After I annoyed almost all known publishers, I managed to reach an agreement with a small company. The editor, an elderly man wearing a dark tweed jacket and thick spectacles which almost rubbed against his magnificent grey moustache, told me, "Your level is average, young man. Average, yes, but the idea itself is interesting. Interesting, yes. Well, you need more practice and more reading, yes." I remembered these words for the rest of my life. I dispensed the copies that were sent to me as a part of my royalty agreement among my friends and colleagues. Lena, who read my novel only after it was published, told me that she really liked it, mostly out of a desire to not upset me, I guess. Time passed. The calendar days were unstoppably approaching the day when I was pulled out of my usual world and thrown into this life, starting from the mysterious pioneer camp, and now ending up here. Now I'm a successful writer, at least according to the number of copies my books have sold. I have a wonderful wife and 2 children. My life has turned 180 degrees. Midnight tonight is the start of something new. Tomorrow is the day that I was awaiting for so many years. What are you thinking about? I opened my eyes and saw Lena. She put a cup of tea on the table near an armchair. Firewood was gently crackling in a fireplace and a snowstorm was roaring outside. I wrap myself up and in a plaid blanket and look at Lena. Do you know what day it is? What day? Do you remember what I told you back there in the camp? No. No wonder. During all these years I never brought up the topic of my mysterious arrival in this world. Do you remember how I told you that I'm not from this world? Lena paused. Well, something like that? Yes? So, today is the day when many years ago I got on the bus 410 bus and woke up at that pioneer camp. So, it's an anniversary? Lena smiled. Yeah, sort of. Is it a sad celebration for you? No, not at all. And I remember almost nothing about that time. Maybe that's for the best. I added some firewood to the fire and took the mug from the table. Maybe I'll write a novel. You'll read it and remember. Do you think that's a good idea? Lena's expression became serious. Indeed, I once promised myself that I will never write about it. Maybe it's not. After all, everything that happened is just for us. That's exactly what I think. I sighed and looked at the fire. You know, life is like a candle. Someone's got a short one, someone's got a long one, and it can burn out at any moment. Then our life is like this fireplace. Yes, perhaps. I looked at her and smiled. I'll sleep for a while longer. Lena kissed me and fixed her gaze on the fire in a dreamy manner. My eyes closed and my whole reality compressed itself down to the crackling of the firewood. I started falling slowly, somewhere far away. No, it was not a dream, like a warm ether, gently enveloping my entire existence. And? Achievement unlocked, live and dream. Every story has its beginning and its end. And we know that text already. Alright, we got the good end with Lena. So, I guess we end the episode here. And after that, well, I have to load the right file. And we're gonna go for the bad episode. I wonder what might happen in a bad one. So probably in order to get that one, I will only need to get to the place where there was, well, a freaking punch into Alisa's face from Lena. And we'll see what happens there. I really wonder. I really enjoyed this game. I hope you too. Alright, see you in the next one. Bye.